Greetings, Mindcrafters, and welcome to sort of a continued discussion on tips for organizing the ADHD mind. We're going to talk about teenagers today. And actually a friend from St. Mike's, which is my beloved alma mater, asked for this. And there isn't anything I wouldn't do for my St. Mike's people. So here we go. And we did move inside only because the bugs in the woods, and you know I love the woods, but that's where they live. And they pretty much almost lifted me up and carried me and put me in my Jeep. So today we're gonna kind of do the sort of classroom style, but I promise it'll be exciting. Okay, so I'm Dr. Kimberly Quinn. I should probably say that each time. And here we go. Okay, so with your teenager, first thing before you even discuss organization, we got to get their head in the right place by you having your head in the right place. And so it's kind of like put on your, figuratively speaking, parental virtual reality helmet on and take yourself back. Seriously detach for a little bit. Go outside, go somewhere. You get like a few minutes of quiet to yourself. Put on that, figuratively speaking, virtual reality helmet and bring yourself back to how it felt like to be a teenager. I know not so fun, but in order to reach them efficiently, we have to kind of be in that place of 1 foot in adulthood, 1 foot in childhood still, and then also realizing, number one, the silent audience, because developmentally speaking, teenagers, no matter how strong they are, confident, loving family they came from, 1 parent, 2 parents, money, no money, whatever, this is developmentally just the truth. So they spend most of every day concerned about what people think. Somebody can just glance over because maybe they had an itch on their nose, and they're thinking, oh no, do I have a stain on my shirt? Do I have a pimple? Did maybe they like me? If they do like me, what if I text them? And what if they don't text me back? And does that mean I'm embarrassed? Or so this goes on and on and on. So they've got this huge silent audience thing going on developmentally, even if they're neurotypical. So it's very important to get how self-conscious they are, even without being an active member of the Fast Mind Club. Even without that, that's their everyday. Okay. Number 2, teenagers are half-baked bread because both genetic females and genetic males, for their prefrontal cortices, that's where all the higher reasoning processes are, right? Planning, judgment, reasoning, decision making, blah, 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 are not fully developed until the age of 25, which means even neurotypicals don't have the best ability to see around the corner from decision making. And we fast minders, especially if we are the impulsive type, not everybody is, then that's even more so for us. So that's why we often land ourselves in a lot of trouble, or consequences, let's just say. So remember that even neurotypicals, though, struggle with this to a degree, and that it's the executive functioning issues for us are just that much more to deal with. Okay, the misnomer, as we discussed in earlier episodes, you want to explain to your teen, maybe ask them first, right? What do you think about this? ADHD, and then focus on this right here, this stupid D word of disorder. We know I don't like it because it's a shame word. And then how it's been renamed, by me actually, attention surplus high energy gift. And if you explain that to them, it gives them some voice about it. Really? You mean I can just rename something? Sure you can. Who cares what's in the counselor's file or whatever the teachers need to know? They can call it what they want to. To encourage your teenager to take on their own agency, I can identify how I want. That's super empowering. So if they want to leave this on the curb, let them do it. They can identify as ASHG, or you tell them Fast Mind Club. Dr. Quinn says you can if you want to. A very good friend of mine, Dr. Dave, another Dr. Dave quote, labels belong on soup cans. You can say that to your teen. It doesn't mean we don't need them so that we get the appropriate treatment. We don't want to treat somebody for ADHD who really is bipolar or the reverse, or swap out those labels. So we do need to know, but we don't need to carry it around like it's tattooed on our butt, right? You can just say that to the teenager. You can separate from it. So this also brings them voice because there's that big question, to identify or not to identify. That is the question. So they may not be ready. They may have been sick of hearing this. Maybe they were diagnosed really young, 8 years old or something, which is a conversation for another time anyway. But they may not want to identify just yet. as ASHD or being in the Fast Mind Club. Personally, I just come out and say I am ADHD because it's so much a part of me. On the scale or spectrum, let's say spectrum of ADHD, I'm way over here, in case you can't notice. And in fact, the only symptom I don't have out of all of them, for the types, is procrastination. And I chalk that up to being raised by 2 alcoholic parents, or maybe I would have it. Tough to tell because that wasn't the story with me. But I learned early on I had to kind of get things done. I was actually nervous about waiting to the last minute. So other than that, I got every box checked for the Fast Mind Club. So here they are. They're a teenager, which means, 1 foot in childhood, 1 foot in adulthood, and it can be entirely up to them how they choose to identify. It doesn't change their wiring, obviously. They still need to be respectful to teachers and counselors and whoever's kind of in on it. And it's also okay, as long as they are respectfully asking, to ask the counselor or the teacher, whoever's working with them, they can just say, I understand that's what the book of labels, the DSM-5 says, but I've chosen to refer to myself or identify as being a fast minder. That's what I'm more comfortable with. And I can't imagine, any grown-up out there wouldn't accommodate that, okay? I would say thank you for letting me know. Kind of like we do with pronouns or anything else that somebody else identifies. I'd rather know so that I'm respectful and that person is feeling comfortable, in the conversation with whatever we're doing. We want people to be comfortable. Let them interrupt. Okay, we know that this is one thing we have to work on. So normally we would redirect that and explain to our teen, as hard as it is, I know what you have to say is exciting and you can't wait and you just read an article and you got the latest on it, or you heard from so-and-so that this really happened. Normally we would redirect that because it takes a lot of work. I still work on it now at 56. Pretty good at it, but every once in a while, it's kind of like you want to sit on your hands, but there's no verbal way to do that to keep you from just what. But in this particular instance, when you're having this conversation with them, I would say let them interrupt because you're tripping a chord on something they want to say, and there's nothing more important than their thoughts and feelings in this conversation. So if you sort of, the word trigger can be overused. Let's say if you just, kind of elicited a thought from them, that may not come back if you keep going. And that thought that they're having or how they're feeling is probably important to this conversation. And we don't want them to lose it, which they will if you keep going. Okay, speak to your young adults as if they're a young adult. Your teen as if they're a young adult, because teens are craving agency. They are so excited in some ways to be, how they perceive adulthood. They're not thinking about mortgages and screaming infants and day-to-day job going. They're not really thinking of all that stuff. They're all about the choices, the voice and the choice. That's what they're craving. They want to have a voice. They want to be taken seriously, and they want to have actual real choices, not just the choices we're kind of giving you. And so when we speak to them as a young adult, that's really fantastic. Okay, voice and choice. Okay, now we're going to get into, look at this fun thing. Okay, organization. So, organization for fast minds, and this is about as neat as I can write. My mind is faster than my hand, and so this took me, I'd actually do this ahead because this is like showcase handwriting for me. My 3rd grade teacher would be appalled. Okay, so the main theme is keep it simple, and so similar to the adult one that I did yesterday, the day before, or whenever. It's very similar, but of course teenagers are, again, half-baked bread, so it's a little different. So organization for fast minds. Number 1 is declutter. Not different than it was for seasoned grown-ups. It might just look a little different. If you start with your teen getting into a really great routine with this, because fast minders like routines a lot, encourage this as a lifestyle. And make sure everything has its place, because that teenager, also true for adults, is not going to be able to keep up with his or her or their room if things don't have their place, because it's just going to be constant. If it's very feng shui and very simple, not a lot of clutter, little bins that are labeled and things, they'll be able to make their bed and slap, put things away, in a matter of 5 or 10 minutes. So it's good also to watch that from a distance. If you start to see stuff creeping up, maybe help them get it back to that management level. So declutter is number one. You can explain to them, because they can get it, that clutter on the outside causes clutter on the inside. We talked about it, right? And they can get that. Their closet, declutter their closet, declutter under the bed, keep it just minimal. Then you can explain to them, because they'll get the white space thing. This open space on their desk creates white space, cognitive space, okay, neural capacity, because it frees up our cognitive resources, and this sets the stage for them to shine. We all want to shine, and with ASHG, right, with the struggles that they have to deal with maybe the counseling appointments and the special IEPs or whatever in school and all these things, and never mind the negative consequences they get sometimes, with all that comes their superpowers. Tell them you have superpowers of creativity and innovation and problem solving, and you shine in a way that's different than neurotypicals in this way. So when they declutter, this creates open space, if it's a desk or whatever, and that creates white space. Synapses are loving it because you got some wide open neural playground space, and that opens the door for creativity, just opens the door. And this is a very natural ADHD or ASHD or gift. Also, of course I didn't put these in order because that would not make sense with my wiring, right? The 20-second rule, that's something that came out of the Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker, and it's a good one. Make things as easy as possible for them, also benefits neurotypicals. An example is my gratitude journal. I have it on my windowsill in our bedroom. I have to walk by it to get out the door. So I'm very good about writing in my gratitude journal nearly every single day. You can take that 20-second rule, and the 20 seconds have been researched, and that's to want to increase a behavior or decrease a behavior. So it works for me with my gratitude journal because it takes less than 20 seconds to access it. It's right there. It takes like 3 seconds to access it. It's also true if you want to stop doing something. So if you want to stop watching so much TV or playing video games, you put the remote, let's say, downstairs in a sock drawer that's way out in the garage in a box, so you know where it is. You're not really tricking yourself that way, but when you go to watch that extra, YouTube binge or Netflix binge or whatever, do I really want to go all the way out there and get it in the box? And okay, forget it. So that's what the 20-second rule is, and that's Sean Aker. Know your triggers. So emotional dysregulation can be part of ADHD, and it's not as it is recently, but it hasn't been for a long time. And we can get stuck. We can think with our feelings, which doesn't usually go well for us. And me personally, my toughest emotion to manage is frustration. I just I'm like 0 to 100 when I'm feeling frustrated. And you want to know what does that to you, so that you can do your best to kind of stay clear of that, minimize it, and then know how to kind of seek higher ground when that happens. Take breaks. It's good to take breaks. It's true for anybody, right? When we step back, we come back at whatever it is we're trying to solve with, some like rejuvenation. We're looking at things differently, kind of thing. This I would have put up front, but my head was someplace else at that moment. You want that teenager to get that they are not damaged, they are different, and we have interest-based nervous systems. This doesn't mean that we're immature. It doesn't mean that we're always after instant self-gratification and that we're the shallow hells of the world, or that we need to grow up, or why don't you act like your brother, or blah, 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 like that. It means that we are different. We have an interest-based nervous system, and we can set that up to be successful. And my youngest came up here earlier, who's also in the club, and she said, Mom, because I was asking her some things that she could toss in, tell them about the fence I built. We have 3 goats, Hamlet, King Lear, and Caesar. And if I would have made that a task for her, which was huge, she would have been all resistant and spicy and everything. And versus we left the door open for her to design it, and she just had to order all the wood, and we took care of that, and she did it at her own pace. And if I could carry this camera out there to show you all, this is like the sexiest goat fence you've ever seen, and they have not gotten out since she built it. It's beautiful. She measured everything. She designed the whole thing. It's gorgeous. So leave the space for that. We don't want to make kind of what we love into being these hardcore tasks, because then it's not fun anymore. Plus, We have that Cinderella window we talked about with our interest-based nervous system. You know, when the clock ticks, 12, we turn into pumpkins. So it's best when, like I said, bought the materials, gave her all the stuff, had her design it on at her own speed, and lo and behold, it's a gorgeous go fence. It's huge and it's super sturdy. Okay, so leave room for the interest-based nervous system. We don't want to confine the interest-based nervous system. And then 3-2-1 rule. So this is for the to-do list thing. This is what makes the to-do list thing manageable. So we have 3 must-dos per day, that's it. So they have even more than that with tests and papers coming up. That's why you want to look ahead 2 weeks. I'm going to say syllabus because I teach college, whatever the word for that. Maybe it's the same in high school, I don't know. But look at their planners because that's when you plan out farther, okay? So there's not more than 3 things per day that are have-tos or must-dos. 3 must-dos, 2 might-dos. So if some stuff is due in the middle of next week, you might have the 3 top ones, 2, I could get ahead and do those 2 smaller assignments. So 3 must-dos, 2 might-dos, and then 1 bonus. 1 thing that I can take on at the end that just has me, ahead of myself, happy, feeling good about myself. And then I also wrote, get an Alexa. And she's going to hear me. Okay, so here she is. Whoops, just fell out of the wall. My kids think this is a spy, and a lot of people think she's a spy. Maybe she is, but we don't use her for that. This can really help to get your teen off of their screen because screen time is really, really bad for us. It's bad for a lot of people. It's bad for basically everybody to a degree, especially with social media because it's a straight road to social comparison can be a straight road to anxiety and depression and kind of who needs that. So the Alexa helps you stay off the screen because you can set an alarm to music. You can ask her to remind you of things. There's no limit. You can be reminded at 8 and 8:30 and then you're not looking at your phone. So maybe even for a certain part of the day that can work. Setting the alarm to music can work. Also, you can ask her the weather, which means you know how to dress for the day. Ba, 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 ba. And lastly, I'm realizing that up here, I forgot to add in a biggie. So that goes with the decluttering. Is you want everything you need for the day, just like we did with the seasoned adult one, everything in one place. So for a teenager, it's probably a backpack. Their wallet is in there. Their phone is in there, everything they need for school is in there, and get rid of, if there's a Q-tip you don't need in there, get rid of it. So it's really good to kind of, I don't like to use the word groom, it makes me think of like pedophiles, ick. Role model by example, and sort of train them to, if there's one piece of paper that's over with and they don't need, get rid of it. Just like, we seasoned adults, or I do anyways, as soon as it gets gone, and then more space is created, it's lighter and it's easier and they can find stuff. And the same thing for the room. So everything they need for the day in the backpack, room feng shui, I cannot say enough about the minimalism. We got this open space leads to creativity, 20-second rule, know your triggers for emotional dysregulation, explain their interest-based nervous system, leave room for them to shine with it, 3-2-1, 3 must-dos, 2 might-dos, and 1 bonus. And get yourself an Alexa. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.